And here we go. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Purple Curd Podcast with the return of Bob Halligan Jr. Vengeance is mine.
Yeah, there you go.
Love that fucking chorus. Pardon my, I know I curse. I will.
It's quite all right.
So, well, I try to be respectful. So, Bob, thanks for coming back on. And I just want to say bravo and kudos to you. This is Judas Priest's probably best critiqued albums in years.
Wow.
And if I may paraphrase a Rolling Stone article that I just recently found, and the name of the person I shall leave nameless, but they particularly praised your song.
Oh yeah.
In the Rolling Stone. So if you look up the Rolling Stone article online, the Invincible Shield review is glowing. They don't do the stars rating for some reason on this one, but it didn't really need it. So, ladies and gentlemen, when I had Bob on last time, we did talk about the fact that you had met up with the boys in Priest in 2018 on the Firepower tour. So this is kind of a continuation narrative thread here that Rob had asked you, are you still writing? Something to that degree. And you said, yeah, sure. He said, would you think about writing another song for Priest? Could you continue that thought for me?
Yeah.
How did that all?
So, yeah, my thoughts immediately went to this score of a silent film that I had done the previous year. So, and I'll spin that yarn for you, if I may.
Please,
may
sir,
I?
Please.
All right. So, the Julian Dubuque International Film Festival is something that I and my band Kaylee Rain have been involved with now for about 9 years. And back in 2017, the festival was held in April, and in advance of it, I was asked to write a score for a silent film. And I was involved in picking the film. And we chose a film by Alfred Hitchcock. It was the third movie he ever made, and it was a silent picture called The Lodger. And film critics speak of it as the first real Hitchcock movie. It's the first that he got into the stuff he became known for later.
His watermark, so to speak, in his style watermark, his fingerprint, so to speak, was started
exactly.
there.
So I looked at the film, and it being silent and all, there's a lot of room for the audience, if there's a multiple audience, to kind of nudge each other or chuckle, because you're looking at 100-year-old movie, more or less, where the men have more makeup on than the women, and everything is so dramatic because if they're speaking words, we can't hear them. There might be a subtitle once in a while. And I was afraid it was meant to be a kind of Jack the Ripper sort of horror-ish movie. But the modern viewer, I knew, was going to start to giggle within a minute or two when I first watched it with no sound, no dialogue. And I thought, well, how the heck am I going to make people take this film seriously? Because the idea was that my band was being hired to perform the score live in the orchestra pit, looking up at the screen and trying to hit all the marks, etc. So it would not only be embarrassing in absentia if I were merely writing the score, but to have them laugh us right out of the theater. I wasn't going to have that, yo.
No, that's a gift. Now,
so I just thought, Kurt, Judas Priest, because I was familiar with them. I had had two songs that they recorded, and then a third that Rob Halford had sung on
Twist.
Twist on his album
Mhm.
Resurrection.
Right.
So I and had written a lot of other heavy stuff, and so I knew that was where I had to go.
Right.
I had to have some dissonance, I had to have some heavy guitar, and I had to have some melody that was twisted. Um, so that's how I wrote the score for The Lodger. And so Rob Halford says, Bob, write us another song. I immediately think of that and I start the music for it, and I realize, oh, I should call it The Lodger and retell through a song lyric the script basically of and story of the film. And that's what I did.
Yeah.
And sure enough, they loved it. And it was a sort of on again, off again affair in that first it was on the album, then it was off the album, then it was on the album, then it was
Yeah.
off the album, and then it was back on as a bonus track. So it's not on the sort of common release, but
Yeah.
it's on the deluxe one
I want
that
to
you can
point
get
out
in
I got it.
private. Go ahead.
It's on deluxe on streaming services, but if you bought the vinyl, which I did, and they sold out of it quickly, they have a. I'll show you. It looks like a bootleg style 7-inch disc.
Oh, good.
I'll
Yeah.
bring it up because I'm
Good.
actually going to see Bob in a couple weeks. I can't even believe I'm saying this. In Syracuse, New York, where you live,
Yeah.
and we're going to see Judas Priest in
Right.
some shape or form.
Yep.
On the last show, this is how the stars align. It'll actually be my 54th birthday that
Ah,
day, and
really?
yeah, and we'll be
Wow.
seeing Judas Priest uh, in your hometown
Yeah.
on the last show of the leg of their American tour.
Wow.
That's
That's
poetic. That's just I'm humbled and honored.
it, it's
So,
wicked
but they
cool.
they put the three. They had three bonus tracks, two tracks that they had that didn't necessarily fit the tone of the album. But I'd say your song really stands out. I mean, Rob's vocals in general on the album. I don't know if you've listened to Invincible Shield as a whole,
Not the whole thing, really, to be honest.
but Panic Attack and some of these things that they've released.
That
I
I've
mean,
heard. Yeah, it's
vocals
great.
are incredible. I
Yeah.
and I've just having seen them live in Reading, Pennsylvania, will tell you they're pulling it off live, and there's no backing tracks, which is a
Yeah.
hot button
Oh, yeah.
topic right now.
Right. Yeah.
And
Excellent.
I will tell you, is it we can use the dated reference to some of us that get is it live or is it
Or is it
Memorex?
Memorex? Yeah.
It's live.
It's live.
Now
Yeah.
there's digital effects
Sure.
and all that,
But
but I have 2 points to make about the Lodger if I may put my 2 cents in.
yeah.
One, in their early career, they wrote a song called "The Ripper" about Jack the Ripper on their second album, "Sad Wings of Destiny," and they do perform that live in the
Ah.
current set list. Um, this is an excellent, and I don't know whether you knew that or not, but it makes an excellent companion. In fact, many fans have
Hmm.
commented on the. If you look at
Really?
the Vivo page of the song that you wrote, there's a lot of comments. Wow, this is a great companion to the Ripper. I also
Vivo.
want to point out the second thing.
Uh-huh.
Vengeance is mine. The first song that they record, you didn't write for them. We've gone over that before. Originally, John Wade of Missing You fame and the Babies was to have recorded that song, but the history briefly summated is that you thought he was going to. He said, "I want to make the lyrics more bland," and in UK speak, that might have meant make it more broad, but to your American ears at that time, that means to water down my song. And you're like, no. So Priest got to record it, but the album that that ended up on was Screaming for Vengeance. Right.
Vengeance is mine,
So
said
and
teachers.
and 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 it's like you almost have the last word on
Yeah.
the album deluxe, as it were,
Yeah.
making it full circle. I mean, I'm probably making a narrative thread that may not necessarily be there, but it's kind of cool that
Yeah.
your first claim to fame was on Screaming for Vengeance, and here it is. Vengeance
Yeah.
is mine.
Me
Uh,
likey.
yeah. Oh, I love. It is clearly like a rock opera. I kind of wish that they had gone more into this direction on Nostradamus, which was their rock opera.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
I think somebody could help with that. You know, if they were to,
Yeah.
if the inspiration were
Uh,
there. I
yeah.
feel like being subtle as a Mack truck here, but
Yeah.
honestly, I'd love to hear. I would love to hear now the scores that you wrote for this film festival, along with Kaylee Ring
Yeah.
performing live.
Yeah.
Are there recorded ways that we can hear it?
Not really. We set up an iPhone on a stick or whatever it was, and I think it ran out after 17 minutes, and it didn't really translate all that well.
Okay.
Um, and if I have a copy of any of that, I don't know where it is. The only thing I probably have is the um, sort of demo-ish thing that I created
Yeah.
in the writing of the score to send to my bandmates for them to
Sure.
learn their bits and put in their own elements and
Well,
stuff.
I would I don't know whether you feel the need to, and I know with streaming and not the lack of profitability on the streaming platforms that might not be commercially viable, and I certainly get that.
Yeah.
But getting to the gist of why you were able to do this is that the fact that you taught at SUNY in Syracuse for many
Yeah.
years, and one of the courses of the courses that you taught a Beatles course,
Mhm.
and you taught a film scoring course, did you not?
Yeah, for 10 years. And it
So
was at
for 10
Syracuse
years, so
University.
you had a lot of skill sets to draw upon, in addition to songwriting for all these folks that you share, Michael Bolton, what have you. So
Yeah.
how did that help you, or where did you lean to the most coming up with this film score? All these skill
Yeah.
sets that you had.
Well, the most, I suppose it was the 10 years teaching film scoring at Syracuse University and the textbook, which was written by, I'm looking over at it, written by a fellow named Richard Davis, who I had a lovely chat with once upon a time. He was
Hmm.
a Berkeley in Boston
Ah.
professor,
Uh-huh.
um, and wrote just a genius book that I would recommend to anybody who wanted to learn a bit about writing music for films. And I used that book all 10 years and forced all my students to read it and then take tests on it
Sure.
so that, it wasn't just read this when you get a chance. It was, there's a test on Tuesday and you need to write eloquently about everything that you took in
Yeah.
those chapters. Um, A, because if you're a teacher, you have to push them to actually learn something, and B, because I knew how valuable it was. So, um, I would say the key thing that I would communicate to your audience there is that you're not a composer, you're a dramatist. And I learned that through this Richard
Excellent.
Davis book, that you're not showing everybody your hot licks. You're trying to make the picture come alive in a way that it couldn't without the music that you're generating for it. It is for that. You're a guy who's trying to, put on a stage play and make sure it works. So that's
You have to be the humble servant to the
yeah,
picture as a whole, as opposed
yeah,
to star of the show.
right. You're a slave to the
Yeah.
picture.
Yeah.
And you work for that film, for the director or producer or whatever, or the head of the film festival. But it's that film that you're honoring every moment of the work that you do.
Yeah. So let me ask you, since in your pop rock commercial songwriting, contemporary Christian Celtic songwriting, you draw
Hmm.
many influences, I'm sure, and of course we talked about the Beatles being such a seminal influence in terms of film scoring. Were there any composers that, or classical or otherwise, that
Yeah,
you drew upon as an influence for writing film scores?
yeah. I don't know if I used any of them for this film. I probably did, but this is kind of a cliche, but John Williams,
Oh, of course.
uh, he's the number one name in film scoring for a reason. Uh,
Yep.
he's freaking genius.
Yep.
Going the other side of the pond here, Ennio Morricone,
Oh,
an
of course.
Italian composer,
Yeah.
um, and did the score for one of my two or three favorite movies called Cinema Paradiso.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and did the spaghetti western.
The good, the bad, and the ugly.
Yeah, that stuff.
Yep.
Um, I love Randy Newman, but I think even more, I think it's his cousin, Thomas Newman. And I couldn't
Yes.
tell you exactly what films he's done, but every time I see his name at the beginning or the end of a film, I go, oh man, now I get why that was so great. There are a bunch of great ones. You
Hans
know,
Zimmer.
most of the big names that we're familiar with, we're familiar with it for a reason that
Right.
they really are so great. Um, there was a guy who did uh I can't think of his name right now. Elmer Bernstein.
Yes.
He
Ghostbusters more recently for
yeah,
those of us
but going way back, he
before that.
did
Yeah.
um I think that he did The Magnificent Seven, and he definitely did To Kill a Mockingbird, like that piano
Yeah.
stuff that sounds
Yeah.
like a toy piano that has the childlike stuff that addresses that this is a movie or a book that's written from a child's perspective.
Mhm.
And so that understanding that he needed to not do something fancy or that sounded Southern. His focus was, I need to tell this from the perspective of Scout and Jem, I think her brother's name was,
Mhm.
and he was so brilliant. And it's those kind of things, like figure out what the movie is about and how do you get it across, and do you use a whole orchestra or do you use just a couple of instruments? You know,
Mhm.
you the thematic stuff's got to be tight.
Yeah.
Um, I could go on and on about it, but
Oh, listen, we could taking away from your compositional greatness. I'm gonna just put it out there because you can write a tune, Bob. You certainly can, and a melody is not a hard thing for you, or is it?
no,
Yeah,
no,
it's not.
melodies are easy and for me, but that's a gift. Combination of a gift and a lot of work at the craft. But what I always tell, and I had students in film scoring and songwriting, and nobody seemed to understand or care about my teachings about melody, and it was very frustrating. It was like being a baseball player and they take the bat out of his hand and you go, "Why am I here?" You know.
Right.
Um, but uh, the main thing that you learn in melody is that you sing it the way you speak it. Ba ba da ba da ba da ba. So there are
Hmm.
notes in everything I'm saying. Ba da ba
Yep.
da ba da ba. And if you don't use that
Mm.
shape
Yeah.
and you put the emphasis on the wrong syllable, it doesn't sound like English. And you're doing it to communicate a thing, to make people laugh or cry or want to call their mother and say they're sorry or want to dance or
Yep.
whatever it is. And if the communication is unclear or feels broken or confused, people tune out. They go over to WGOD or whatever it is that they want
Y-
to tune into instead.
Absolutely, and excellent point. And to your point, I just had another podcast guest. We were talking about audiobooks and the perils of not
Yeah.
having some sense of cadence and phrasing and
Yeah.
inflection. And when you put the emphasis on the wrong syllable, and I brought up there was a audiobook about Alan Leeds, who was Maceo, Maceo Parker, James Brown,
Uh-huh.
all these guys,
Uh-huh.
Prince. He was a tour manager for D'Angelo, Chris Rock, the comedian, currently. And he didn't read his own audiobook because I believe has an affliction that keeps his voice quavers a lot.
Oh, I see.
So,
Uh-huh.
unbeknownst to him and his brother, who's a saxophone player, Eric Leeds, um, I brought up that they had an outside person come and do the audiobook for them. They didn't know this. And the guy kept saying over and over again, Maceo Parker, not Maceo Parker. To your point, Bob, the whole book, and I'm cringing. He
Yeah.
did a great job reading everything else, but you get that one thing wrong,
Oh my golly.
and it just ruins it for those of us who actually know
Yeah.
how to pronounce the guy's name. It'd be like somebody saying, Bob Halligan. So
Yeah.
Bob Halligan and I,
Yeah.
come on, man. You got to do your homework, and these people are getting paid
Yeah.
very well. The audiobook community is just exploded.
Yeah.
People are driving their cars. I mean, books on tape was a thing many years ago, but now all this stuff's at your fingertips with
Yeah.
Audible and Google Books and what have you. You
Yeah.
can't get that kind of stuff wrong. To your point,
Oh,
you
yeah.
you have to have a when you get somebody who can read speech well, has a nice speaking voice, they may not necessarily have that musical quality to their
Hmm.
voice.
Hmm.
So
Yeah.
to implore to your students, yeah, I mean, when you're young and in your late teens and early
Yeah.
20s, you're
Yeah.
not thinking you're not thinking about inflection necessarily.
Mm-mm. Mm-mm.
You're thinking about what time's class over so I can go hang with my friend. I know. Oh, I'm sure you can. No, not at all. They're teetotalers and innocent
Yeah.
lambs, each and every one
Yeah.
of them, Bob.
Yeah, I got to hit mute here. I, yeah, I, I'll tell you what, I just, well,
Yeah,
okay, enough
I you
said.
did it so I didn't have to paraphrase you. But at any rate, so going to your students for a minute, have you had any students that you've ever had feedback from that have gone on to at least do something with a musical component to it?
Oh yeah, 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 yeah. There was a guy named Jeff, and Jeff would kill me if I don't come up with his name, and I will. I always want to call him Jeff Roberts, but it's Jeff. I'll get it.
Okay,
Worked for a company called Jingle Punks, and then started to do scores for films. And he had been in my film score class and my songwriting class. And it was funny because when he was a senior, he asked to meet with me, and we sat down. He said, I'd really like to pursue a career in composing and recording instrumental music.
sure.
And I thought, well, good luck with that. But
Yeah,
we had a good chat about it. I told him what I could, and
yeah,
sure enough, he went on and you'll hear his music anywhere you go, whether it's in a TV commercial
yeah.
or what's the guy's Morgan Spurlock, the Super Size Me guy. He did
Oh,
one of his
sure.
movies, and he's
Wow.
done all manner of stuff.
That's excellent. And,
Yeah,
Bob, it's a game in numbers, especially in an industry as difficult to get into, that out of all the hundreds of students, you're going to be lucky to get one or two that actually go on and do this and
yeah,
sustain a career out of it. It's a
yeah,
game of numbers that gets very, the air gets very thin at the top,
yeah, yeah.
and you get a
It
few that
does.
make it out of there.
Yeah,
That's excellent. I know we'll have to
yeah,
look him up, but
yeah. But you're gonna have to wait for me to think of his last
oh,
name.
for gosh sakes,
Oh,
that's
Jeff,
okay.
Jeff, Jeff. Oh, golly.
Well,
Well,
you know what? Let's
he'll
take a
come.
hold on. I'm gonna. Yeah. And we're back, folks. So I want to make a correction because Bob was kind enough to not correct me during the thing. But Bob actually didn't teach at SUNY. He taught at Syracuse University. So let me just correct that for once. And so his student that we found, Jeff Peters, went to
Yeah.
Syracuse University. Currently lives in Brooklyn, according to his stuff on here online. So he went on to compose quite a few film television awards. He's gotten a lot of ASCAP film and television awards as recent as 2015, 16 on LinkedIn.
Good.
So
Good,
yeah,
good.
so that's a pretty good student there, Bob. Kind of
Yeah. I was very blessed with
yeah.
really talented young men and women, and some of them, I can think of one who went on to be an executive at Sony Publishing.
Wow.
another one who's an entertainment attorney. So it's kind of a wide swath of stuff that they end up doing. Nashville, LA, New York City, wherever.
Well,
Uh,
Nashville's huge now. My God. I mean,
yeah,
it's just a mecca. Not just and a lot
yeah,
of rock and metal musicians. I will point out the guys that behind the priest guys. Two of them live in the greater Nashville area, and that's Scott Travis and the newest guitarist, Richie Faulkner. They both are based here in the States and in the greater
really.
Nashville area around there. A lot of rock musicians have moved down there. It's not
Yeah,
just country
yeah,
anymore.
right. Yeah, Linda and I lived there for 8.5 years from 1995 to 2003.
Oh wow.
And you know, people like Michael McDonald
Yeah.
and Felix Cavalieri and Peter Frampton were there. And
Wow.
neat.
Neat company to have kept. I know you've worked with
Yeah.
Michael. You've worked well, all three people you've worked with.
I
Yes,
haven't worked
Frampton.
with Frampton. I met him at an
Oh,
ASCAP dinner, and he was sweet as a pie. But Felix, I wrote a few songs with, and I sang 3 songs background on a studio album he made, produced by Don who wasn't, and wasn't present for
Don's
any.
great.
He's great, but he wasn't uh, there when I worked. So
Oh, damn it.
he was doing multiple. He had various plates spinning.
Oh, he's produced
Um,
for the Stones. He's produced for you name it.
Everybody, yeah, yeah. And then Michael McDonald sang the background vocal, the male background vocals with me on the Kathy Mattea recording of our
Love
song
track.
"Love Travels."
Yeah.
So that was super, super cool.
Yeah, you were elbow to elbow with him in the recording studio, weren't you?
I was indeed. And he
It
was sweet as a pie.
and I'll tell you something. Recently, I'll plug another podcast. Rick Beato, who is a fabulous podcast, just had an interview with him a couple months ago, and
Uh-huh.
he just talking about when his dad would take him because his father was a musician and played, and they
Uh-huh.
took him to bars, and the mom was encouraging of that because it kept the dad out of trouble, and he could keep an eye
Oh,
on his
yeah,
father.
yeah.
So it served a dual purpose, but he
Yeah.
got that soul from all this pub and bar work he would do with his father,
Uh-huh. Neat.
and that voice of his still unwavering. I mean,
Mm.
still back out on the road with the Doobies for their 50th anniversary tour too. So I
Oh,
mean,
wow.
yeah, I play a whole lot of. Sometimes when we do in our Led Zeppelin covers band, just as a brief tangent, we when we do uh, No Quarter. One day I just started goofing around and saying I keep forgetting in the wrong key. Of course, it's an E minor, but no quarters in D minor, and the keyboardist has used a riff from I keep forgetting.
Huh.
So you'll hear a snippet of that when we do No Quarter.
That's funny.
Oh, I
Huh.
love. Come on, Michael McDonald,
Yeah.
just an all-time great. So
Yeah.
well, I tell you, Bob, we could talk about a whole host of other things, and I've been trying to play a podcast matchmaker with another podcast for you to be on. And you too, I'm going to tell you, if you get together with Martin Ware, I just literally talked to him about an hour or so ago, and I was just talking. The two of you could talk about Italy alone. That could dominate the conversation. So his knowledge of viticulture is frightening. He could be a
Wow.
sommelier.
Isn't that something?
He's one of these guys, and you too. You've got a multiple skill set all over the place. Culture. You've absorbed all this culture, all this different stuff, and you just, nothing beats age and experience, minus the aches and pains, of course. But
Yeah.
but we won't go there. We won't go. You got to push the mute button on that one. Wish we
Yeah,
could.
yeah,
Wish we could
yeah,
just mute the pain
yeah.
with a
Well,
button. But all these cultural experiences that you put into your own outlet in music, it's just a beautiful thing, and I thank you for sharing your time with us.
yes,
um
absolutely, Kurt.
and at some point we will maybe do a short little vid when I come up there in Syracuse and visit with you, commiserate
Yeah,
with you a little bit, and I look forward to that. And I did send a friend your way who is actually moving to Syracuse and took a university position, funny enough.
I worked on that already.
Beautiful. Thank you. And Alex Bodenham, That one's for you, babe. He's a sweetheart of a guy, and we
Great.
sang at Washington Opera for many years. So I really appreciate
Oh,
you.
wow.
Yeah, oh yeah, it's connect the dots.
Yep. Got to
So,
do it.
folks, if you want to hear more about Bob, I'll have all the links below that I had on the last podcast. Again, check out the new song that he wrote for Judas Priest, The Lodger. It is one of the highlights on the album, deluxe edition, but it's still a highlight nonetheless on there. You can hear it on all your streaming platforms wherever you listen to music. Bob is in the band Kaylee Rain, and Crash This Gate is still available on all your streaming platforms, and I'll still have the link for that up and available. Do you have any forthcoming? I did want to mention Donnie Purnell. You did produce an album for him. Any word about whether he's going to go out on the road with those songs? And can
This
you remind me the album name?
The album is called Hooray, Hooray,
Thank you.
and no road plans that I am aware of for
Okay.
Donnie.
But Donnie Purnell was best known in the rock world as an original member of Kix, whom you
Yes.
wrote numbers of songs for, and their biggest hit, your biggest hit, "Don't Close Your Eyes,"
Right.
went to number 11 in the pop charts. So,
Yep.
all those songs are in the streaming universe, and this will be on the YouTubeverse as soon as as soon as I'm able to do that. But Bob, looking forward to seeing you in
Yeah,
a
man.
couple of weeks. Thanks again, and thanks to your lovely wife Linda
Yep.
for allowing all this to happen.
Yeah. You
So,
almost put her foot down, but it worked out. Hmm.
well, that's an extra glass of wine for Linda. There you go.
Nice. Ooh, ooh. Me likey, she likey.
Yeah, listen, the redder the better.
Yeah, I
The
like
redder
it.
the
Yeah,
better.
yeah.
Yeah, let me believe me when I tell you. My multiple chano from my Barbera,
Ooh, ooh.
Barolo. We could talk wine, Bob. You want to talk wine? We'll talk wine.
Great. Let's drink
Yeah.
it instead.
Oh, listen. If Jesus could turn water into wine, so we can extol the virtue for
Yep.
him in his honor. We shall do
Yes.
that. Yeah.
Yes.
All right. So, folks, if you like what you heard and saw, please like and subscribe, and please support the arts. Support the arts. Don't just stream. Buy the physical copy. Buy the albums, download the albums. It's important. It's important. We
Yeah.
want these folks to be out there doing what they do. Thanks a lot for tuning in.
Amen.